Hello, handy viewers, such as you are, and welcome to this episode 24 of Don't Touch the Beard, in which I video, document, and then talk nonsense over games of Guild Ball. A treat I have for you today, of all days, I'll be showing you the new Ratcatchers and new Morticians guild with the help of Matt from the Roll Better podcast. If you're unfamiliar with the Roll Better podcast, do go and give them a listen. Just be mindful to set yourself aside a good 6 hours or so to get through all of their wonderful content as they let's get ready to ramble, nicking other people's catchphrases all over the place. Love it. So yes, game. I should probably have one of those. Been a while. So the Rats win the kicky receivee role, as it's known locally, at least by me, and elect to receive. So the teams in question are, for the Rats, Piper, Squeak, Scourge, Miasma, Bonesaw and Skulk, and for the Morticians that is Scalpel, Vileswarm, Silence, Ghast, Veteran Hemlock and Veteran Graves. I mean, very much our intent here was to show you as many of the changed models as possible, rather than sort of optimum teams. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking with it. So Veteran Hemlock gets me underway with a jog up the pitch and then boots the ball towards the Rats, and damn near gets the best possible result, but doesn't, and boots the ball straight off the pitch, sadly. So the ball starts with the Rats. So Matt gets us underway with allocation, putting 4 on Piper, 1 on Squeak, 1 on Scourge, 2 on Skulk, 4 on Miasma, and 1 on Bonesaw. Now, due to the carrier rule, both Miasma and Scourge start the game diseased and will also take a point of damage. For the Morticians, that is 4 on Scalpel, none on Vileswarm, 1 on Ghast, 1 on Vet Graves, 4 on Silence, and 3 on Veteran Hemlock. Scourge gets us underway with a sprint up the pitch. Veteran Graves activates and, making use of the new kicking team's momentum, uses his new heroic play, Packmaster, to give Vileswarm 2 influence. He then aims himself a little sprint up the pitch. Skulk in turn also sprints forward, successfully passes to Squeak, banking the point of momentum. Vileswarm joins the sprint party. He then makes use of his new character play, Scatter, to place within an inch of his of where he is. Squeak passes to Miasma, and then Squeak jogs forward. Ghast has a sprint forward. Why not, eh? Miasma passes to Bonesaw, who has a teamwork action to dodge forward. Miasma then sprints forward. Everyone real keen to meet in the middle in this one. She then Rataclysms, hitting both Ghast and Graves, doing 3 points of damage and giving them both the disease condition. Not wanting to be left out, Silence sprints forward, throws down a Fire Blast just to block the lane, and he pays only 1 point for Fire Blast, not 2, due to his new trait Tenacity. So what Tenacity allows him to do is essentially choose whether he pays 1 or 2 influence for it. I then play 2 for Shutout, targeting Bonesaw to make sure he goes last, and miss. So instead of going last, Bonesaw goes next, so he makes use of Stamina to take a 5-inch jog at the beginning of his activation, deftly avoiding the fire in front of him. He then spends 1 to put up Meditation, so his next kick, regardless of whether it's in his activation or not, will be re-rolled. He then takes himself another 5-inch jog, coming up just on the very extremity of Graves' melee zone. I activate Scalpel and sprint towards Graves and Bonesaw et al., and make use of her new character play, Spirit Bomb, to do 2 points of damage and a 2-inch push to anyone in the AoE. It successfully hits Bonesaw, and I push him 2 inches directly towards Veteran Graves, who of course now has close control and a tackle very early on in his playbook that he didn't have in the previous season. So if a parting blow is attempted, or not parting blow, if I need to make a parting blow, I've got pretty good odds of taking that ball from Bonesaw, hopefully. I then make use of Second Wind on Scalpel to dodge her back towards her own goal, so as to best be an intervening model. during the inevitable goal attempt by Bonesaw and Piper. Speaking of Piper, he activates next and sprints forward, annoyingly avoiding the fire. He then makes use of Reverie to target Bonesaw, playing the 3 influence and causing Bonesaw to sprint forward. Bonesaw sprints, doesn't have to be in a straight line, it's not a charge or anything like that. And he sprints to be at the very extremity of Graves' melee zone and pays to take the shot on goal with the momentum and also a bonus time on it as well. So that is 1 dice less for the Graves in melee zone, and also another one for Scalpel being the intervening model, but with meditation up. Even that -2 to the dice with another one for the bonus time, bring it back only to -1. Things are looking pretty good for Bonesaw. So yep, didn't even need the meditation in the end. Ratcatchers 4, Morticians 0, a Bonesaw goal via Reverie. Now with hindsight, I should have kicked the ball out towards the unactivated Hemlock with her extreme mobility. And also the 3 influence that I've got on there could have very easily got a snapback goal for me. But instead, I pop the ball just behind my lines and it scatters just about as much as it can do. It's going to be a theme for this day's gaming. Not even for this one game, but for the game we had after as well. And the ball scatters directly towards Bonesaw. So in an effort to build up a bit of momentum, Hemlock jogs up towards Squeak, being careful not to engage Skulk or Scourge. In hindsight, I should have headed directly towards the southerly end of the pitch, leaving the slower Scourge and Skulk and Squeak, and just let them have the top end of the pitch. But hey ho, live and learn. So that is Tac 5 versus 3s and 1s. 3 net hits is a momentous 2 damage on the rodent. Second attack, Tac 5 versus 3s and 1s. Just the 1 net hit this time for 1 net hit. 1 damage. You can tell it's been a while, can't you? And finally, Tac 5 versus 3s and 1s, 1 net hit as another 1 point of damage. Do-do-do. So that's the end of turn 1, and during the end phase, condition damage is now taken, so that's Graves? Graves, Ghast, Scourge and Miasma all take a point of damage from disease. Block cards then, I play Seize the Initiative, Matt plays Lone Striker, but with my 1 point of momentum, that is an 8-7 win to the Morticians, and I elect to go first. So as the player that won initiative, I dodge first, so I dodge 2 inches, snap the ball and dodge 2 inches back, so effectively don't move. Now what we should have done at this point is Morticians should have allocated their influence, and then Matt should have made his 4-inch dodge under the new rules, but we didn't, because, you know, mistakes happen. Give us a break. Blimey. So turn 2 allocation, I put 1 on Scalpel, none on Vile Swarm, 3 on Ghast, 4 on Vet Graves, 4 on Silence, and 1 on Veteran Hemlock. Matt in turn puts 3 on Piper, who he prematurely dodged into cover, none on Squeak, 3 on Scourge, 3 on Skulk, 4 on Miasma, and 1 on Bonesaw. I activate Graves, who snaps the ball to Ghast. He then takes a jog to engage Miasma. I then spend 1 to put up Exhaustion, his new 4-inch aura, which means enemies must spend an additional momentum to declare a counterattack. I then declare attacks against Miasma, and he doesn't have enough momentum to counterattack. You see how that works? Now, due to Virulent Strain, because I'm diseased, I'm at -1 tack for these attacks. So that's Tac 4 versus 4s and O's. 4 net hits is a momentous 2 damage. I make use of that momentum to give Vile Swarm 2 influence with Old Rats, or whatever you want to call that. Packmaster, that's its name. I'm then going to push her into Vile Swarm. Yes, attack 4 versus 4s and O's is no net hit. Damn it. Third swing, Tac 4 versus 4s and O's, 2 net hits. I take the knockdown, They Ain't Tough. They Ain't Tough being a 6-inch character play that removes 1 point of armour, but as none of his guys within range have got armour, that pretty much goes to waste. So at the end of Graves' activation, as his activation ends, any model within 2 inches suffer the disease condition, so Vile Swarm is diseased. So Miasma activates and uses Solve to remove knockdown. Was convinced this was other models, it turns out it's friendly models. That is amazing. She then takes a swing, bonus timing it against Graves, so that's Tac 6 versus 3s and 2s, 2 net hits. Is the momentous push, pushing Graves out of engagement and freeing her up for her advance. Miasma has a jog, deftly avoiding the rough ground in the centre of the pitch, and moves to engage Hemlock. Takes a swing on Hemlock, so it's attack 5s versus 5s and O's. 2 net hits is a momentous push. Second swing, attack 6 versus 5s and O's. 1 net hit for 1 point of damage. Third and final attack, attack 6 versus 5s and O's. 2 net hits, again, is the momentous push. Hemlock is now engaged by everyone. Well, Squeak, Skulk, Scourge, and Miasma. Oh dear. So at the end of Miasma's activation, disease spreads to both Squeak and to Hemlock. I activate Vile Swarm, who spends a point of momentum to glide, and declares a furious charge against Miasma, who in turn counterattacks. So the rats attack 8 versus the 4s and O's and Miasma and get a whopping 7 net hits for 3 damage, 3 damage, and 1 damage on a double wrap. Miasma's counterattack, attack 4 versus 4s and O's, 2 net hits, hits the erupting spores, doing 2 points of damage both to Squeak and to Hemlock, and I elect to poison them rather than bleed. Back to Vile Swarm then, attack 4 versus 4s and O's, 2 net hits is the momentous 2 damage. Final attack from Vile Swarm, bonus timing it, attack 5 versus 4s and O's, 3 net hits is 3 damage, and that is enough to take out Miasma. You beautiful little pile of rats. Ratcatchers 4, Morticians 2 due to a Vile Swarm takeout. Sadly, Scourge now into Hemlock. Attack 9 versus 5s and O's. That is 3 net hits for the knockdown. Second swing, attack 9 versus 4s and O's now. 4 net hits. It's a momentous 4 damage thanks to Scourge's +1 damage when he is diseased. Last attack, attack 10 with a bonus time versus 4s and O's. Thankfully only the 4 net hits for another 4 momentous damage, leaving poor old Hemlock on 1 wound. Scourge so far hasn't advanced, so he takes his jog now. So sensing that Matt wants to activate Skulk next to do 1 point of damage to Hemlock and kill her off, before she activates, I activate Silence and make use of Tenacity to put Shutout on to Skulk successfully, ensuring that he will be the last model to activate. So with Miasma off the pitch in the 4 and therefore Salve no longer being a resource for the Ratcatchers, now seems a perfect opportunity to throw down a cheeky Fire Blast, hitting both Squeak and Skulk, doing 2 points of damage and burning to each. Bonesaw activates and makes use of Stamina for a jog, and then sprints back towards his captain and cover. I activate Scalpel, who jogs forward. She then puts Second Wind onto Ghast. Squeak has a little jog within the fire. I activate Ghast and spend a point of momentum to glide. He unsnaps the ball to Graves. He then moves free from the rough ground to engage Scourge. So, Ghast into Scourge, that is attack 6 versus 3s and O's, 2 net hits is the momentous knockdown. Second swing, attack 6 versus 2s and O's, 4 net hits will be a momentous 3, down to 2 because of Scourge's tough hide. No, I'm not putting it on screen. Ghast then second wins in to engage more of the Ratcatchers and to be near Hemlock. Piper declares a charge against Vet Graves, who has no declarations in return. So that is attack 9 versus the 3s and 2s of Vet Graves. 4 net hits, and Matt elects to take the momentous tackle, proccing the close control on Vet Graves. So he bonus times another attacks. Attack 6 versus 3s and 2s. 2 net hits is the momentous tackle. Thanks for noticing. He then makes use of distracting time to push Veteran Graves 2 inches away. Piper then uses Haunting Melody on Scalpel. I elect to come to him, and he leaves me where I am. Hemlock forgoes her advance to stand, and then spends 2 momentum to heal herself 4 health. She then makes use of Soul Seal to take 3 damage, bringing her down to 2 health, but means she can spend 1 less influence on a character play. She then casts Smelling Salts, targeting herself, Ghast and Squeak, and removes poisons and diseases and knockdowns and all kinds of horrible things. Nice. So the shutout Skulk can activate now and takes a swing on Hemlock. That is attack 7, due to the crowd out from Squeak, versus 5 and O's 3 net hits, is the momentous 2 damage required to kill Hemlock. So that brings the score now to Ratcatchers 6, Morticians 2 with a Skulk takeout on Hemlock. Speaking of Skulk, he has himself a little jog to engage Vileswarm. Skulk attacks Vileswarm with a crowd out from Squeak. It's the Battle of the Rat Friends, so that is attack 7 versus 4s and O's. Matt gets 3 net hits and elects for the double dodge. Third attack from Skulk, so that's attack 7 versus 4s and O's, 5 net hits. Matt elects for the momentous double dodge and dodges away but maintains melee zone with Vileswarm. Words. So that Vileswarm gets diseased at the end of the turn. Curious why I didn't take the push as well to push me into the fire. But hey ho, that's just me. So for conditions, both Graves and Vileswarm take 1. Scourge takes 1, and then Squeak and Skulk both take 2. So at the end of the turn, Ratcatchers have 7 momentum to my none. Not that Matt was really smug about that. So Matt clearly wins the initiative race and elects to go for offside trap, whereas I go with won't touch the hair. So Miasma comes back onto the pitch and turn 3 is allocated with 6 on Piper, none on Squeak, 3 on Scourge, 3 on Skulk, 2 on Miasma and 1 on Bonesaw. So I put my 3 poised onto Veteran Graves and allocate 6 to Scalpel, none to Vileswarm, 3 to Ghast, 1 to Vet Graves, 2 to Silence and 2 to Vet Hemlock, jogging in from the back of the pitch. So Piper gets us underway in turn 3, making a successful now 4 dice pass to Bonesaw. Bonesaw taking a 4-inch dodge forward under the newly named Teamwork rule. So Piper declares a charge against Veteran Graves, who makes use of his poised. So that is attack 9 versus 3s and 2s, 2 net hits easily for the momentous double push. Should have seen that coming, really. He then predictably reveries Bonesaw, who sprints forward and takes a shot on goal. So that is Ratcatchers 10, Morticians 2 via a Bonesaw reverie goal. Time to start the comeback, Beard. Please. So I kick the ball out and it scatters to a position that's absolutely useless for me, as is traditional. So I activate Silence, who goes and gets the ball for me, and then continues his jog, being sure to stay within Fire Blast range of Scourge. So I throw a Fire Blast at Scourge, and despite needing only 3s, miss. Solid work, Silence. Finally, pass the ball to Scalpel and take the teamwork action to dodge. Scourge activates and declares an attack on Ghast, costing him 2 influence rather than 1 due to fear. So that is attack 8 versus 3s and 1s. 4 net hits is a momentous 4 damage. Now this does thankfully give me 2 momentum due to Rising Anger, so at least I've gotten something out of that. Second swing, attack 8 versus 3s and 1s. Again, 4 net hits for that momentous 4 damage. And then at the end of Scourge's activation, due to the disease special rules, Ghast gains diseased. I activate Hemlock, who sprints towards Bonesaw, uses Soulseer to do herself 3 points of damage, and then makes use of Midnight Offering to jog Scalpel towards Bonesaw. Now with Scalpel's 7 inches of jog, 7, I'm making sure my positioning is such that Vet Graves is still within 6 inches. So if I need to, I can reposition him with Voodoo Strings. So the on-fire Skulk declares a charge against Ghast. So with crowd outs and charging, that's attack 12 versus 3s and 1s, but a rather unlikely roll of 4 net hits is still, however, the knockdown. Bonus times the second attack, so that's attack 9 versus 2s and 1s now. 5 net hits is the momentous dodge double push, and he pushes poor Ghast further into that new rat trap and within charge range, presumably, of Miasma at the top of the screen. Boo. So I activate Scalpel, who is engaging Bonesaw with a crowd out from Hemlock, and it is worth reminding you at this time of the new rule Voodoo Strings, so that at any point during her activation, if she damages a model, any model within 6 inches can, for once per turn, suffer a 2-inch push. Let's have a look at how that works. So attack 8 with a crowd out from Hemlock versus 5s and O's. I get 4 net hits and go for the momentous 2 damage, pushing Bonesaw in towards Silence. Should I have taken the knockdown? We'll see. Attack 9 versus 5s and O's, only one hit for 1 damage, and I push Veteran Graves closer towards Piper, engaging him. Third attack, bonus timing it. Attack 10 versus 5s and O's, 4 net hits. Again, I take the Momentous 2. Again, I ignore the knockdown. Fourth attack, again, I bonus time. Attack 10 versus 5s and O's, nothing. Again, bonus timing. Attack 10 versus 5s and O's, 1 net hit. 1 damage. What do you do? Last attack, attack 9 versus 5s and O's. 5 net hits this time, naturally. And I take the knockdown at last. She then has her advance and bases Piper. Miasma declares a charge against Gast, and seeing as he's knocked down and I have no momentum, I take it in the face. So that's attack 12 versus 2s and 1s. He gets a whopping 8 net hits and goes for the Momentous Erupting Spores, Momentous 2 damage. Erupting Spores being every model within a 2-inch pulse, sorry, every enemy model within a 2-inch pulse takes 2 damage and either poison or bleed. I elect for poison. So Miasma, as she is not diseased, uses a point of momentum to rest and heal 4 health. I activate Gast and stand him. So Gast swings on Scourge, he declares a counter. I am tack 2 dice due to all the crowd outs and such. Versus the 3s and O's of Scourge. I get 2 net hits and that is a momentous knockdown. Sit down, big fella. With my whole new dice, I take a swing on Miasma. So that is tack 3 versus 4s and O's. 1 net hit, 1 point of damage. Do-do-do. Last attack, attack 3 versus 4s and O's, 2 net hits is a momentous knockdown. Now what I should have done at this point is either heal or clear some conditions or do something with that momentum I've gained. But no. No. So Bonesaw activates and forgoes his advance to stand, and as a result can't use stamina either. And buys an attack against Silence. So that is attack 4 versus the 5s and O's of Silence. 2 net hits is enough for the momentous push dodge. I activate Graves, Veteran, and move with my advance so that I am within 2 inches of Piper, but not within 2 inches of Scalpel. So at the end of his activation, the disease will only go on to Piper. So that is attack 6 with Scalpel versus the 5s and O's of Piper for 1 net hit. For yes, you've guessed it, 1 point of damage. Do-do-do. So at the end of the turn, Vilestorm takes 1 point of damage, Ghast takes 2, Veteran Gaze takes 1, Piper takes 1, Scourge takes 1, Skulk takes 2, and Squeak takes 2, dying, bringing the score 10-3 to Morticians. The comeback is on. So Matt is on 4 momentum and I'm on 2. He plays fullback for a total of 9, and I go for the knees. Matt wins the initiative and elects to go first. So turn 4, rat allocation is 4 on Piper, none on Squeak, 3 on Scourge, 3 on Skulk, 4 on Miasma and 1 on Bonesaw. So I put go for the knees on Silence and then allocate 6 to Scalpel, none to Vilestorm, none to Ghast, 3 to Vet Graves, 4 to Silence and none to Vet Hemlock. So Scourge forgoes his advance to stand, pays the 2 influence to attack Ghast due to fear, and his attack 8 versus 3s and 1s. 4 net hits is momentous 4, that is enough to take out Ghast. So with that score, that brings the game to a close at Ratcatchers 12, Morticians 3. So Don't Touch the Beard 24 is recorded in the big book of beard that you're seeing on screen now. See what I did there? Nice. As a win for the Ratcatchers. A big thank you to Matt, my opponent today. A thoroughly enjoyable game, not only this one but the one we had afterwards as well. Please do go check out his and his comrades' stuff over at Roll Better Podcast. Some excellent convivial chats. Just, you know, give yourself a bit of time to enjoy it all. I hope you've enjoyed this look at Season 4 Ratcatchers and Morticians. I hope you've enjoyed all of the media reveals that have been going on during this 2-week period of craziness. And I hope to see you all soon at SteamCon UK. So you should be seeing on screen right now a beard. Please do be clicking to subscribe. And as ever, handy viewers such as you are, I need a better outro, clearly, because, you know, burping halfway through it's a good idea.